Welcome back to the Transfer Show. Time now to go round the clubs.
Certainly is. Arsenal are in talks with Rosenborg over a deal for Norwegian teenager Sven Nupen. Alexander Zinchenko is attracting interest from Atletico Madrid and Borussia Dortmund.
According
for Arsenal, it was so nearly extremely nervy for them because they went down to 10 men in that game. And I think if you cut a montage of all the commentators who were working on that game around the world, the tone of surprise in their voice when that was given as a red card sort of tells its own story there, although pgmol have said that they support the decision.
Of course they will. You know what I mean? We're talking about an organisation who, for me, it's a dangerous mix. You know what I was going to say, Kels, with this? When that happened, Kels, I said, that's a good yellow to take, you know what I mean? Because when you look at it, he's gone in sideways. It's cynical, right? It's cynical. Look, he's gone in sideways, and yes, his boot is caught there. That for me is a yellow card. I couldn't understand it, and like you said, in unison, all the commentators around the world went, "What? Oh, he's been sent off." People thought that he got a yellow before, right? Now, if he got a yellow before, you probably wouldn't be able to argue. But for that to be a red card is absolutely ludicrous. And
it's definitely worth talking about. Before we do that, though, it's also worth reflecting on what pgmol have said, because Michael Oliver has been subject to some really awful online abuse, and pgmol have spoken out in support of that, saying they're appalled by the threats and abuse. No official should be subject to any form of abuse, let alone the abhorrent attacks aimed at Michael and his family over the past 24 hours. They've put the police in touch with that. They are investigating it. Of course, the support for Michael Oliver, and as they say, sadly, it's not the first time a match official has been forced to deal with threats in recent times. This is not about a personal attack on Michael Oliver, but and we would unilaterally condemn any kind of abuse, let alone the kind of abuse that him and his family have been getting for that. But that doesn't mean that we can't look at the decision.
Thank you, and that's where it's come from. What we've seen here is a referee that's made the kind of mistake that people have gone, no, especially with Arsenal. Arsenal fans have got every right to feel, why are we still getting Michael Oliver on our games? There's 8 sending-offs that Arsenal have had, and a couple of them you have to think to yourself, probably will never see those sending-offs again.
You can't talk about conspiracy.
You can't go down that route about
No. Let me finish. The fact is, why can't you go down that route? It's there facts for everyone to see.
On that
you know what? He's had 47 games to see. He's not sent off one player.
How many of those Arsenal red cards were red cards?
Yeah, but the thing is that.
But that's relevant because you can look at the Lewis.
I don't think
Miles Lewis-Skelly and you can say, right, fine.
I think you go back to Martinelli against Wolves. He got booked in the same incident.
But again, that was the two yellows, was it?
You look at Declan Rice's one. You look at Saliba's one.
But they were all by the letter of the law, correct?
What I'll say about this game, though, is when you look specifically at this game, because that point there is a point that I think a lot of Arsenal fan base will really home into. But if you look at the game itself, you look at the Gomez decision, you look at the Lewis-Skelly decision, and it's like even in the same game, we're not having any parity in anything that's going on. And I think that is the major issue. And we can talk about, you know, the technology that's been brought in. There is an issue with officiating, and I think it's been brewing for so long now that there's just this real resentment towards everything that happens. We've seen...
Do you think there's less understanding because there is the assistance of VAR now? Do you think that we're less likely to say, do you know what, the ref either hasn't seen it or hasn't seen it properly, or he's missed it, or he's made a...
But this is the issue.
So now,
so a wise man once said that
gone.
VAR is like CCTV. It's like, it's black and white, it just tells you what happened. So when you go to it and you see it and it's like, well, why is this the decision? And then it becomes, it's the letter of the law. And I think that phrasing and how it's utilised, and I think it rounds people up the wrong way. We've seen that sort of challenge happen in the Premier League since its inception. We know what a tactical foul is.
It's a cynical tactical foul.
We see loads of tactical fouls not receive yellow cards. We definitely don't see them get red cards, especially if you're not in a yellow. So I think it's very confusing for people, and I think in many ways, we're very fortunate Arsenal did get the result, because if they didn't, the ramifications for the league, this conversation would have...
The only thing I would say in Michael Oliver's support is, we are all human, he's a human being, he makes mistakes. But the VAR, as you rightly says, it's black and white, sees it and goes, Michael, just hang on a second, you might want to take another look at it. It's such a big moment, it's the first half, Arsenal are away from home, this is a key moment of the game. just take yourself 30 seconds across the screen, and if you're still happy with the decision, if you still think it's a red, then he goes off. So I think VAR should step up to the plate on Saturday. They didn't.
They have to believe that it's a big enough incident, that
the other thing, Kelly,
is a big enough mistake to send.
Because Michael Oliver's regarded, and Ray might disagree, as one of the best referees in the Premier League. The guy in VAR, I'm not sure who was in VAR the weekend. Darren England might be like, well, I can't tell Michael Oliver he's got that wrong.
Well, then they've got the wrong people.
But then he should be strong enough to say, just have a quick look.
We don't know that was the case, but I think, do any of the three of you think that was a red card?
No.
It's not.
No, it wasn't. It was a yellow card, and when he done it, Kels, as he done it, I said, good yellow, take one for the team.
Yeah.
So when he went off again, I said it's not going to make any difference because there will be no accountability for it. They'll twist it with the words that they use, the PGMOL, and say, well, it's the letter of the law, and then you have to take it again. But when it happens, as often as it happens with Arsenal and the fans, you can understand, of course they're going to feel aggrieved by it. They're going to feel like, why is it always us, and why are we still getting this guy on our games?
But every set of fans, if you go online and look on any forum, on any platform, any social media platform, every set of fans thinks it's just us. We are worse hit by decisions than any other team in the Premier League.
Let me check this one.
Yeah, who's the ref?
It's got a time code.
And they've all got one or two refs that think absolutely hate them.
I don't want him.
Yeah.
But we know that the thing is the accountability, Kels. Like even with me, I'm just critiquing that decision. I cannot understand how he sent him off for that.
I understand the accountability, but I think for me what probably is worse for fans or just anyone is how the letter of law justification is then used to support it. So if in this situation it's the studs above the ankle, if you say that out of context, of course you're going to say, well, if your stud's above the ankle,
he's probably done him, yeah.
But if you look at the context of what football is, and I think that's why it's so dangerous, we're watching football, it's not, you have to look at what you're watching, and that's why the VAR has to step in and say, well, listen, like you said, it's the first half, look at the game, look what happened, you shouldn't really give a red card for that.
And that's not quite what the conversation was
between
the referee and the video assistant referee on the day either. That wasn't something that was discussed at the time.
I think it's worrying that all three of them came to that conclusion for that particular foul when you can watch it back. I know what you said as well when we were talking, Shay, to slow it down. Maybe they shouldn't slow it down so much because it looks even worse. But when you slow that down, it doesn't look like he's trying to do him to stop him. He's trying to trip him up. That's a yellow card. Someone should have said to have a look at it, and I can't believe that ended up a red. I cannot believe it.
But as you said, it helps a little bit that Arsenal managed to go on and take all 3 points anyway in the game with Ricardo Calafiori's goal.
Well, yeah, it was a very good goal and a goal that was needed because if I'm going to be totally honest, Kels, with everything that's gone on, I'm quite pleased that Arsenal
sign a striker in time. And of course, a big story this window involves Arsenal and their need to sign a striker, if there is a need, because Mikel Arteta did get quite tetchy with our colleague Jamie Weir, didn't he, when he was asked that question a couple of days ago. Maybe misunderstood what the question was. But what is the latest on Arsenal's search for a striker?
Well, I think Mikel Arteta said pretty clearly in that press conference, and I think what Jamie Weir did a fantastic job in getting him to confirm is they want to do business in this window. But Arteta also said it's not up to them solely. It's such a difficult window to make big moves happen. If you're Arsenal, of course, Mikel Arteta is fully aware they need another forward option. Of course, losing Bukayo Saka, Gabriel Jesus to injury leaves them short. Also think when you look at the Wolves game on the weekend, you don't want to pick on Kai Havertz because it feels like we talk about him every week, but he is missing that clinical touch at the moment. He missed 2 or 3 opportunities against Wolves that you just think a typical number 9 with that clinical nature would finish. And they almost did drop points against Wolves. Wolves did have their chances, and Arsenal were down to 10 men for a large portion of that game, and that game could have seen them out of the title race with Liverpool winning again on the weekend. So I think Arteta said it himself. Of course they want to do business before deadline day, but it's very difficult to do, and it's not as easy as just Arsenal want a striker, let's sign one.
Yeah, and it's difficult to find number 9 specifically, isn't it? So, I mean, is it possible that they could bring in a forward who isn't a number 9, someone who can maybe play across the front line, but not an out-and-out number 9?
But then you're back to the same situation again. In 6 months' time, everyone's going to be saying Arsenal need a striker again, which, again, would probably be easier to do in the summer. And that's what Arsenal have to trade off here. you know, your magic missing piece, let's just say Isak or Benjamin Sesko or, you know, that number 9 is going to be more attainable in the summer than they are now. How much are they willing to invest into a stopgap or somebody who can help the squad in the long-term vision without compromising too much what they want to do in the summer? Even Matheus Cunha, he's not a number 9. He's not what Arsenal actually need in terms of that number 9. If you want him to sort of play in a left 8 and then Declan Rice can come one back and then you've got Odegaard as a right 8, maybe so. But that, again, that's a bit of a shoehorn. He's an out-and-out 10. Yeah. Can spend time on the wing as well. So if they was to invest heavily into him at the expense of, now we've eaten into money, we maybe would have tabled for Isak or gone for Benjamin Sesko or Vlahovic or whoever the 9 is, that's a bigger problem. So they need players, they do, they need something, but it is difficult. It really, really is difficult. And I don't think that is, as soon as Arsenal get that number 9, that's it for me, they win the title. Yeah. I've said it many times before. I think they need more creativity in midfield. They have enough defenders, that's evident. And when Bukayo Saka's out, they need some cover there. So somebody is multifunctional across the front three, but someone like Bukayo Saka, he's so good, you're convincing a player to come and essentially say, when Bukayo needs a bit of a rest, you get a game. Yeah. So you've got to be really creative with your scouting. So, look, he's being very honest. They need players and they need forwards now.
I hope you've not used up all your gold on Matheus Cunha there. We're going to expand that point. Yeah. Will Cunha get a move before the deadline? Big question for Wolves. The forward is yet to sign a new contract offer on the table by the club. And he is wanted by several clubs, including Nottingham Forest, Aston Villa and Arsenal. Dan, it's a club that you follow closely. What is the latest state of affairs? Do you think Matheus Cunha will still be a Wolves player in a week's time, just over a week?
First of all, I'll give myself a bit of wiggle room and say that anything can happen in the transfer window, so I have said that. However, my feeling is that, first of all, Wolves do not want to sell Matheus Cunha. First of all, why would they when they're in a relegation battle? He also has 2.5 years left on his contract, so they're not under that financial pressure to sell him. And I think my feeling is, we talk about his new contract, I do feel that he probably isn't close to signing that at the moment because perhaps of all the noise around him at the moment. But I think if you're Wolves, you're just hoping to get through deadline day and just hope that he can refocus. I do think in the last few games we've seen him physically show a lot of frustration on the pitch that does seem slightly out of character, you know, to his teammates. We saw that with Wang. He is unsettled, and I think we're showing that. He's I've interviewed him a few times. He's very expressive. You know, he's a lovely person to interview as well, but I think he's showing that maybe a bit too much. Vitor Pereira said on the weekend, he's committed. We're keeping him. There's no such sense in selling him, and I think that's what we'll see come deadline day. I would also say I don't think any club can really afford him. I mean, you're looking at a player who potential double digits assists and goals in the Premier League in a season. You're looking at someone who's well worth over 70 million, 80 million that Wolves would demand. Exactly. Who has that money in January? Yeah, I tell you what, your stuff on Cunha was so good. Don't need to come back. Don't need to. I'm running out of time. Stay with us though. We've got loads more to come. We've picked out some Premier League teams who need to do business before that deadline next Monday. Stay tuned.